Welcome to the Enigmatic Abyss, the channel where we explore hauntings, disappearances, and enigmas which elude a modern understanding. Get your favorite snack and settle in. Today, we will look at the enigmatic and haunting alien encounters of Bishop James Cloud following his initial abduction experience in 1976. The following is the bishop's own words. The summer of 2007. We were living in Medford, Oregon. We lived in a small home situated on another person's property whom we rented from. Events which occurred at that property crossed multiple paranormal topics. The event I am going to talk about revolves around an experience that my wife and I observed and lived through. Earlier in the evening, before the main event, I was outside of the home on the porch having a cigar. I was observing the night sky and relaxing. As I was observing the sky, I noticed two triangular craft which looked nearly identical to the triangular craft in 1976 flying across the night sky. They flew approximately 2,000 feet above the home from the west to the east. I continued to observe them until I lost sight of them on the horizon. The difference between 1976 and the 2007 event was that the craft were not lit by lights on the craft but were illuminated underneath by the lights of the city. The craft appeared to have a copper/brown appearance due to the illumination from the city. The craft were in a formation with the lead craft being in the front and the other behind and right of the lead craft. 1 week later, my wife and I were in our home and getting ready for bed. As we got into bed, we were startled to hear the same thrumming sound from the 1976 event. My wife exclaimed, "What is that?" I replied, "Oh crap. That's the same sound from when I was a kid and had that encounter." The sound permeated the home and began to increase in speed and intensity. The exception from the 1976 event and this one was that no observable lights appeared. As we were attempting to figure out the source of the sound, it suddenly stopped, and everything went back to normal. My wife then shook my shoulder and said, "Look." As I turned my head, I observed the top of a grey-colored, bald head walking outside the bedroom window toward the front door. I became angry at that point due to a feeling of fear and the need to protect my wife. I grabbed my 9mm handgun and ran to the front of the house to confront the thing we saw. I opened the front door and ran to the side of the home with my gun drawn. Whatever had been there had now disappeared. I searched the area for about 2 minutes to no avail and then returned to our bedroom. We returned to bed and tried to get some sleep. About 45 minutes later, I was awakened suddenly by a sound in our bedroom. As I sat up, I observed 3 stereotypical grey aliens standing at the foot of our bed. I was about to lunge out of bed and attack them when a loud, masculine voice echoed through the room saying, "Leave." At that moment, they disappeared, and I sat there dumbfounded for several minutes before I returned to my sleep while keeping my handgun close in case they returned. The fall of 2019. This event occurred about 12:30 a.m. as I was driving home from a poker game with my former boss and our friends. I was driving my car on I-5 between Grants Pass and Medford, Oregon. Everything was typical for the drive until it wasn't. As I was driving about 5 miles from Grants Pass toward Medford, I noticed a large, brownish ship move from the left side of the car and disappear into the night sky. I thought that it was odd and jokingly told myself that there went a spaceship. It was at that moment that I noticed my radio was flipping stations on its own, and the display lights in the car were slightly flickering. I shrugged it off as an electrical issue until I got back to our home, and I realized that the normal drive time of 35 to 40 minutes from Grants Pass to Medford had taken me over 2 hours. I had lost approximately an hour and a half with no recollection of what had occurred during that time period. The incredible thing is that at no point during the drive did I suspect that anything but the normal amount of time had elapsed. Before the ship, I was traveling at 65 miles per hour, and after I observed the ship, I was still driving at 65 miles per hour and in the same location. However, hours had passed unbeknownst to me. It took me several days to come to grips with the reality of it all. Over the following week, tidbits of memory came back to me. They remain as flashes, but I remember the face of a very tall, hauntingly beautiful female who had been speaking to me. She was taller than I am by about 7 inches. I am 6 feet 2 inches tall. This beautiful female's straight hair was whitish gold and hung down past her waist. She had the bluest eyes I have ever seen. The blue in her eyes seemed to be faintly illuminated, which created a mesmerizing appearance and accentuated her unearthly beauty. She was thin and wore a blue, almost black robe. I cannot recall the conversation, however. Only that one vivid memory exists currently. The summer of 2022. About 2 months ago, my wife and I heard the, now familiar, thrumming sound. We quickly got up and explored our home for its source. It was loud inside the home, but when we went outside, we couldn't hear it. We checked the HVAC system to see if that was the sound. It wasn't. After about 10 minutes the sound stopped. Later that night we went to sleep but had a fitful night and dreams which kept waking us up. I awoke from sleep in the morning to find that my right shoulder was hurting slightly. I was curious, so I went to the restroom to check my shoulder out in the mirror. It was then I noticed 3 puncture wounds on my right shoulder in a perfect triangle shape. I thought that it was odd, but in hindsight I have to wonder if something had happened overnight. This all being said, I know a few of you have also had similar experiences. It is my firm belief that these are the Grigori/Watchers. It is a class of created beings which are not necessarily good. Some have fallen, for the scriptures, Genesis 6, Psalm 82, and the Ethiopic Book of Enoch. Others may have not defected from the godly duties and continue their duty to observe the earth. These would be the same sons of God who cohabitated with women and created the Nephilim. Thus, they're not incorporeal spirits, but possess DNA very similar to ours. This is a necessity, since they were able to produce children, albeit monstrous in form and attitude. Each day I wonder when, and if, there will be more encounters. I'm not afraid of them, and I don't base my beliefs or life around what has happened to me. Though, it has made me open-minded when others tell me their own stories. I can't deny it, otherwise I'd be lying. So, I give the same grace to those who have allegedly experienced high strangeness. Here, the bishop's recollection of his experiences with unknown entities end. What do you think of these enigmatic encounters? Write it in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more enigmatic stories.